how do you feel about like the terminology we're using now with doulas, birth workers? Now there's like this whole other controversy in the birth space about, well, now we can't call ourselves doulas anymore because there's certain doulas or training programs or hospitals that are trying to like pull the doulas into the system and make it requirement that you have to have certain certifications or approvals, or like there was this whole controversy about should doulas even be certified? Should doulas be licensed? Should doulas be, under the medical system? And then, oh, we're not going to call ourselves a doula anymore because, well, doulas are with the system. So now we're birth workers. Like, and there's this whole like now there's probably even more names. I don't even know. I'm not like up to date on all of them, but like what's your take on that? What language do you use, or where do you feel like that conversation is going and headed?
I think that the same way with women, if we feel like something is on its way to take it from us, we're going to take it back. And as far as like the names, I think everybody chooses the name they resonate with the most. And I will always use the word doula just because it's Latin for servant. And
Yeah.
for me, I'm like, it couldn't have been a better, there's no better word for it. I love the term servant and having a servant's heart. So, as far as the medical system taking over doulas, we will fully reject that. I even reject it down to the insurance part of it. I reject it. I don't think that those two things should ever meet. And I think that if we encourage that and even have like neutral stances on it, we are just so fast to the way of losing the goodness of the doula
Yeah, it's
world.
it's a guise, in
Yeah.
our opinion. I think we both agree that it's a tricky, slippery slope to just kind of getting in bed with the system, which we already know the way that that was originally,
Yeah. Now, why is
proposed
that
to women.
important? And what do women need to know? Why is it important that doulas are not a part of the system?
There's a huge issue in the doula world, not even just the doula world, in the midwifery world too, where there's
Mhm.
resentment that builds in this work because of the things that we're experiencing. When you're seeing birth trauma, you will get secondhand trauma, and that creates that resentment, and that creates, a lot of cynical beliefs around birth, where it's like,
I was
I'm
going to
just
say it
showing up.
hardens you.
Yeah, it hardens you, and you truly it's a disconnect. I talk about it a lot that the women that you serve in as a doula should every single woman should truly be your dream client. And that comes with saying no a lot and realizing I can't serve you the way that I feel like I can serve you best. If it comes with, oh, you want insurance, which means that we have to do this amount of prenatals and they need to cover this and you need to have proof of this. Yeah.
It is one
Yeah.
of the most intimate moments of a woman's life, and it should feel like that all the time. It
Yeah.
should feel like friendship. It should feel like love and support, and it should feel genuine all
It's
the
really
time.
Oh,
hard. It's really hard to do that when there's just a list of rules and contracts you're following.
yeah. Do you think it's possible for doulas to support women in hospital births and remain servant-hearted toward women?
It has to be the right client.
Mhm.
It has to be the right woman. It has to be someone who, although you are serving them in the hospital, they are taking radical responsibility over the birth and their outcomes, and saying that if I get the epidural, if I have an OB on call that wrecks my birth, if I have a nurse that wrecks my birth, I'm not going to throw the blame on you.
Mhm.
And if something happens in my birth where we're all hoodwinked and it goes completely south and it hurts you, I'm not gonna blame you, because that's another thing. Women hire doulas for their hospital births, expecting that they are this. And again, doulas are great and doulas are needed in hospitals. I'll never deny that. But when doulas are carrying the weight of what they're experiencing, which is trauma, coercion, abuse, they become shells of humans. So there has to be, like I
Mhm.
said, that certain level of connection. And even like with when you're supporting a home birth, if it goes to the hospital, there's a transfer, there has to be deep connection in that moment with the woman you're serving. It's just because
Mhm.
you guys are going from home to the hospital. And you can't, if there's not that connection, there's a big wall in between you, and that's where resentment grows. And even a feeling of like, oh, am I even good at this? That's why one of the reasons I stopped doing hospital birth, because I was like, oh gosh, I don't think I'm good at this. Because all the women I was serving in the hospital were getting epidurals, going to C-sections. They were not following the birth plans that we had talked about. So I was like, gosh, I don't really think I'm a good doula. But it really just was that lack of connection. And that's just the whole thing. So
Yeah.
I think women should serve other women in the hospitals, but I do think there has to be a clear conversation about the expectations of the birth and your role in that place.
Yeah, exactly. Like, what role do you envision me having? Those are really important conversations that doulas and clients need to have, because I think you're absolutely right. There's this like oftentimes this unspoken expectation that women have that the doula is going to rescue me or advocate for me or be my like shield of protection, fighting for me against this evil medical system and all these unnecessary interventions, when that's a really heavy burden and an unfair burden to place on a doula, because she doesn't have that kind of power. She can't be your voice, and she's not going to be able to live up to those expectations. It's going to set both of you up for failure. And so you're right, taking radical responsibility, I think, is a core tenet that every woman needs to be willing to take on for her birth, and not expect the doula is taking this on or coming to be in the rescuer role, because that puts the woman in the victim role. And women are not victims. We are radically responsible for our births, and we have complete power and autonomy. And every decision we make, including where to give birth and who to have there, is a part of that autonomy. So not having unrealistic expectations on doulas or anyone really to just swoop in and protect you and save you from birth. Like, I think those are really important conversations to have. And as doulas and women giving birth, like, what are we expecting from our support team? What is their role? What do I need from you? How can you support me? Those are some really important conversational topics.